Well, hey, and welcome. Glad you guys could make it. I'm sorry this is a little bit atypical, but we're doing the best we can here. My name is Dr. Murray. I'm a second-year resident here.
My name is Dr. Chintalopoli. I'm a first-year resident.
And together, we're going to be doing our best to show you everything you'd see here at CBM as a resident. So, if you're all ready, let's get going. The first thing on our right is our conference room, and this is where we hold a lot of our meetings with a lot of our attending physicians to discuss patients. In the pre-COVID area, we also used to do a lot of conference calls in between all of the state of Missouri to discuss more complex patients. And then we'd also have some of our smaller, more one-on-one style didactic classes in this room. As we go down this way, this is where most of our department has its offices. You've got the chair of the department right here, and then Sherry's office. Sherry is your go-to coordinator for literally everything here. If you have any questions about how administrative stuff works, she's your go-to. She'll also help you with scheduling, getting all of your initial paperwork taken care of. She's sort of the glue that holds our residency together. And then right next to her, Dr. Dellenbaugh's office. He's our program director. You'll get to know him really well in the coming days. We have some associated offices here with the Psychoanalytic Institute. These are good people, good references to use. They can often be someone you talk to get kind of a second opinion on how to approach a therapeutic case. And then some of our resident offices start right here. You have Dr. Cow's resident on the right. He's our current chief. You'll also get to know him pretty well during the interview process. And then coming down this way a little bit more, we have Dr. Adams' office. She works on our forensic psychology unit. And then again, more of the resident offices. And if you'll take a quick peek, I've got my office to show you here. Forgive me, it is a little bit messy at this time. So as you can see, it's a pretty spacious office. It's got plenty of room for your books and everything. It's got computer access with free Wi-Fi, always a perk. And then moving right along, some more of our resident offices, some more of our attending offices coming this way. And then in this part of the fourth floor, we have our cubicles for our first and second years. Each resident here gets their own sort of private space where they can keep anything they need, ranging from a quick snack, their reading sources, their office supplies, and then it's a nice quiet desk to work at. This is also a shared space with some of our psychology interns and practicums that come on in here. These are also going to be people you're working with a lot during your first and second year on mutual patients, so it's a good place to get some work done. You'll spend a lot of time here your first and second year, but not so much your third year when you transition to the outpatient setting. So next up on our tour is the third floor. This will be where most of our patients are kept from the forensic side of things, and then we'll also show you a little tour of where we do a lot of our training for things like CPR, safety training with aggressive patients, and then also where most of our didactics are held.
To start off our tour of the third floor, we're here in this very large room. This is where we usually have grand rounds, exams, and case conferences. This was all mainly before the COVID era hit. We would also have residency association meetings here as well. And then again, pre-COVID, we would also have catered food to most of our events. And now going down this way, we have our hallway filled with a lot of research that our students and past students have done. And then further down, I will show you the didactics room next. This is where we have most of our didactics. And we also have some medical student lectures here. We have a projector right there for lectures that need to be given and presentations. And this is where all the students would sit. And our setup area is over here. Next, we'll go see the forensic units. So we have our pool room. This is a nice place for some of our more chronic patients who've been here for more than 6 months to relax and do some activities. We have some puzzles over there and our bookshelf full of just different assortment of books for the patients. This would be the pool table. It's covered up right now. And then over there, we put some of the puzzles that are completed up. And then over this way, we have an area for some of our patients to lounge around. And there are also some elliptical machines and other workout equipment here as well. And then just throughout this hallway, we do have some examples of the artwork that our patients do either in art therapy or for fun. And back here we have our 3C unit. It is very similar to our 3D unit in that the average length of stay is still 6 months to 1 year. It has 25 beds. It is staffed by one of our PGY4 residents. And now I'll hand it off to Dr. Murray.
Here on the second floor, and this is where the tour really starts to pick up. This is what a lot of the incoming applicants like to see, and that's the call area. This is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time overnight and on weekends as a first year and second year, which is just back this way. It's pretty nice as far as most residency programs I interviewed at go. We do have a very isolated area for ourselves. It's not shared by any other programs. It's not shared by psychologists. This is just for our residency program. And its first door right in here on our left you'll see is our lounge. It's a very nice area, very nice comfortable couch, 2 computers to work at, and then we keep it stocked pretty regularly with lots of food and beverages so that while you're here on the weekends you're nice and comfortable. If you are staying overnight, you have that extra little bit of chocolate to get you through those last hours. Moving right along in this hallway, this is our sleeping area. It's got a nice full-size mattress in it, very comfortable, and also some lockers that the second years use. As I said, most of the second years are the ones who are doing the overnights throughout the program, and they get stuff to keep in here like pillows, sheets, any toiletries for the night. We also keep most of our protective equipment in here, your standard N95 masks, your reusable gowns, and then face shields given the current situation. So this would be a good time to bring up the call schedule a little bit. You will get a little bit more of this information when you discuss it with the program and at your interview date itself. But one of the bigger selling points here is that they really do a good job of sort of easing you into your on-call responsibilities. Starting with your first year, you primarily focus on weekends. You'll be here after your shift on a Friday from 5 till 10. And then on your weekends, you come in at 8 o'clock and do some consult work until noon. And then you come back to the inpatient units and you staff that until 10 that night. And then the following Sunday, again, from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. The nice thing about this is that you have the freedom with your co-residents to kind of decide what you want to do with your schedule. For example, my class, when we did it, we divided it up so that one person would take that whole weekend, but then you have golden weekends going forward for the next 5 weekends straight, which is really appealing if you want to do things outside of your work. Another example of how the current first years are doing it is they've actually broken those weekends up so that you're only working about once every 3 weekends, which is still nice, but then you also aren't working those 12 days straight, which can be very tiring. So moving right along this way, and kind of getting back to the tour, this is probably one of our most important rooms over here, and this is where we keep all of our caffeination. We have our own Keurig. We keep that well stocked with mostly K-Cups from Costco, but people do bring in their own varieties of caffeine. We do have a smaller selection of green tea that we can brew ourselves, and then we also keep diet sodas on hand like Dr. Peppers, Cokes, just standard stuff so that you can get through your longer shifts here. And then finally going down this way is our kitchenette area. It's mostly just to have some extra dishes and supplies in case you want to bring your own food in, get a little cooking done on a slower night. And then sort of with our kitchenette is a little Bowflex machine, a pull-up bar that if you want to get a little exercise in, you're more than welcome to. Full disclosure, I don't think any of residents here have actually ever used that, but it's there if you want to, which is always nice. All right, so working our way right around the second floor here, we have some of our offices for our social workers. And once you've come on this side, we're actually on the Truman side of things. So a little bit of an explanation there. This whole building is technically owned by the state of Missouri and the Center for Behavioral Medicine. But the 2 units we'll see in just a bit, units 2C and 2D, they're leased out to Truman Medical Center. So they hold a different population of patients. And then sort of last down this hallway is our intake area for the Truman side of things. Any patient that comes onto our units is going to come through here. They'll meet with security first. They'll be stripped of most of their belongings to make sure that there's no hazardous items on them or weapons. And then they'll be seen by our intake nurse. Now their responsibility is primarily to make sure that all of the basic medical needs are met before they come onto our unit. As with most psychiatric inpatient units, we don't deal with many IV medications here. Anyone who's got an IV medication and a line running to them is a potential choking hazard and suicide risk. And then needles, of course, are a potential hazard for our suicidal and homicidal patients. So we tend to make sure any of the patients who are on this level of care don't require any of that from the medicine side of things. That's mostly what our intake nurse is going to be screening for, just to make sure that all of that criteria is met before they get here. And then lastly, we have our little resident workspace up here. This is mostly a lot of computers and where you'll spend the majority of your time on the inpatient units for your first year as a student here. All right, and getting close to the end of our tour now, we've got the final bit of the second floor here. This is mostly where we keep our 2 inpatient units that are with Truman Medical Center. These are a much shorter stay unit, whereas upstairs on the 3rd floor we talked about the forensics units with a little bit of a longer length of stay, ranging 6 months to a year. Down here on these units, the patient length of stay is only about 4 days, with the longest patient stay typically being a week. In rare circumstances, we will apply for a 21-day hold on some of these patients to keep them a little bit longer. And then on rare occasions, maybe once or twice, you'll have a patient staying as long as 90 days, but typically this is a much faster rate of turnover for the patients. In terms of total bedding for these units, it's somewhere about 20 to 23, depending on how many beds are open or closed based on different construction projects going on and sort of individual needs of the patients. Every now and then you'll have a patient that is on our units that really isn't appropriate to have a roommate at that time, so that can cause a little bit of fluctuation in how many beds are currently available. This is again going to be staffed primarily by the first-year residents. You'll usually work with 1 attending on the unit and divide up the census of about 12, so that on average you're going to be seeing somewhere around 6 to 8 patients. You're not going to get flooded when you first start here as a first year, and they will tend to slowly ease you up to that full cap of your patients. Strictly speaking, there is no hard cap, so if you have a really cranky attending, you might end up with as many as 12 patients, but at least in my experience, that has never happened. Moving right along, out this way is a courtyard that's less for the patients. This is more for the staff. Occasionally you'll have a few patient groups that are held out here, but again, this is mostly where some of the staff will come just to get a little bit of fresh air and write some notes, chat a little bit about some patients, maybe even hold some table rounds outside while you're on the med psych rotation. All right, and then coming this way is our other Truman inpatient unit. Again, very similar characteristics. Length of stay is about 4 to 7 days. The typical type of patient you're going to have here is mostly the acutely suicidal patient. You'll have some acute psychosis patients, and the big thing that's unique to that is you'll be able to apply for a sort of court-ordered stay, where you take a patient who is put on a traditional 96-hour hold, and you'll go in front of a judge and ask that they extend that 21 days so that you can offer involuntary medication to the patient. Coming this way as we near the end of the hall is our cafeteria. That'll be coming up just over here. Sort of before the whole pandemic thing, this would be a great place just to meet both with patients that are more stable and staff. You can come here and get some good food. It's not included as a part of your plan, but it is relatively inexpensive food, and they do offer a pretty good variety here. Finally, coming up here on our right, this is our gymnasium, which in this current time we've sort of converted over to an isolation ward. So whenever we do have an outbreak of coronavirus, this is where we'll keep the patients in isolation from the general population. The way we've been doing things here as sort of an added safety measure for our patients is when they first come to our unit, we'll make sure they're COVID negative by PCR, and then we'll also keep them here doing regular vital checks 3 times a day to make sure they don't show any fever during the first 14 days here. They don't drop on their oxygen levels during the first 14 days here. And that way we're just extra sure that before we put these admissions in with the general patients, that there's no chance that they're going to bring something with them to those units. And then the last part of our tour, wrapping things up, is our Unit 2B. This here is our sort of longest stay unit. Now, whereas the other units you've seen ranged from 4 days to a week and at longest maybe a year, this is where patients stay for, and I think the longest I've seen now is about 8 years. These patients are patients that have, for whatever reason, failed sort of lower levels of care. They've tried outpatient with providers, they've tried group homes, and it just wasn't enough. They need to be here for longer term so that we can find out just the right medications and make sure they've met a lot of general requirements to sort of reintegrate back into society. Now, we do keep a lot of our patients who have gone through the forensic side of things and have been ruled permanently incompetent to stand trial. Those patients have been found unable for whatever reason to go through the court proceedings and need to be on this unit for a longer time while we sort of work to find them a guardian and also make sure that they have the skills they need to become a part of society again. Those things usually on this unit include completing our work rehabilitation program that shows that they have the skills not only to take care of themselves but to do things outside of the society. We also like to make sure that they've been stable on their medication for a long time and that they also haven't had any acts of violence or aggression towards other people, just so that we ensure that if they are ready to leave this unit, they'll be safe where they're going.
This concludes our tour. We hope that you find this very informational. If you do have any more questions, please feel free to contact us.
We really hope you enjoyed your time today, and we hope to see you soon.